What is the best niche right now? This is the most common question that I get asked by existing and aspiring AI lead generation agencies. So I'm going to make this as easy as possible for you today. Why am I qualified to do that? Well, I've made tens of millions in revenue for my own agency, Affluent.co. I've also helped scale over 4,600 other agencies over the past 8 years. And by the end of this video, you're going to be able to, if you are trying to start or you already have an AI lead gen agency, select the best niche to give you the highest chance of success coming into the next few months. Now, in order to pick a niche, we've got to have a deep understanding of what it is we're trying to sell. And so I want to make sure you align with this. This is the standard AI lead generation funnel. There are going to be nuances across this, but broadly speaking, you are generating traffic for your clients. This is what you're getting paid for. That traffic is converting into leads. Those leads are converting into appointments, i.e. booked calls. Those appointments are converting into sales, i.e. revenue. And then you've probably got some kind of converter on the back end to increase LTV, which is the amount of money that your clients are going to spend over their lifetime with your client, because you send those people back into booking more appointments, or you send them back into whatever traffic source that you are using in the first place. And this is relevant for you whether you run paid ads as a way to generate traffic. It's relevant if you create websites with SEO, you do email marketing, you do organic content. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if you use lead forms or landing pages, whether you're booking calls manually or using AI, whatever your chemical makeup, it's going to look something like this. If this applies to you, I'm going to help you choose the best niche right now in your agency. So let's get straight into it. So let's explore first of all the core benefit of that service, because if we want to know who we're going to sell to, who would be the perfect person, we have to really get a deep understanding of what we're actually doing for them. How are we benefiting their life and ultimately their business? Okay, the first benefit is speed to lead. Okay, and arguably the biggest benefit. Okay, apart from, of course, on the macro increasing revenue for our clients. Now, speed to lead is the speed in which it takes in order for us to reach out to a lead that we generate for them. Now, AI allows us to reach out to leads far quicker than ever before than with humans. Actually, Harvard found a study that if we reach out to a lead in 30 minutes versus 5 minutes, we are 21 times less likely to convert that lead. I believe Hormozy did his own study, 60 seconds he compared to their previous speed to lead, and they had a 361% increase in conversion rate by reaching out to those leads within 60 seconds. And so this is what we're able to do for our clients. Now, the second benefit is consistency. Okay, if we are generating the leads for them, converting them into appointments, booking them onto their sales calendar, regardless of who the business is, we're able to do that in a more consistent manner because we're not relying on humans who make mistakes, have bad days, etc., etc. Okay, the next thing is going to be capacity. Okay, if we're using AI, then we have the ability to reach out to hundreds of thousands of leads when one person can just reach out to maximum 100 leads per day. Most people can't even handle that. And the final thing is clarity. Okay, because we're accessing all of the data, because we are handling the entire process from traffic through to LTV, then we've got access to all of the numbers, and therefore we can give the client more data. And because we're handling a large volume of leads, we're going to get a lot more insight than the client has got internally, and the client is busy running their own business. They don't have time to do this at the moment. So we can create great data dashboards and so on that the client is going to benefit from. And so we need to have businesses, or we need to work with a company that actually wants all of these things. Okay, what creates want or the desire to pay? It's going to be pain. Okay, so what are the opposing pains that relate to these benefits that we are ultimately selling our clients? Well, these first two are actually symbiotic. They exist with each other, and that pain is human bottlenecks. Okay, most businesses who are generating leads at the moment and therefore revenue. You know, they've got a receptionist, or they've got a sales team which is handling speed to lead. They've got a receptionist who's trying to keep things consistent, okay? But humans need to sleep. Humans have bad days. Humans have days off, okay? Humans make mistakes. Humans are busy on their lunch, so they can't get to leads. Humans are sleeping, and therefore they can't get to leads in a timely manner. And so they've got this pain that relates to these two benefits here. Capacity, okay? Well, the pain is, do I even have the hunger to grow? Or do I even have the capacity to grow in the first place? Do I have the ability to scale? Does my business model allow me to do so? Okay, and so first of all, it's like, do we have the ability? And do I have the hunger to scale? We've got to be working with a business that not just has the ability from a business model perspective, but actually wants to grow. Okay, if you're an established agency, you'll know, you speak to many business owners, you just presume that everybody wants to make money, that's why they're in business. No, lots of people just want to stay comfortable, have a respectable living, look after their family, enjoy the business because they actually love it, rather than just needing to make money. And also clarity, well, what's the pain there? It's like the ability or being number-centric. If a business owner doesn't have the pain of not having clarity on their numbers, it isn't hyper aware of the fact that they don't really understand what is working and what isn't working, so they can't optimize. If they're not number-centric, then they're not going to benefit from the service, and therefore we shouldn't sell to them. So ultimately, what we're really looking for as an agency is someone that has human bottlenecks, they've got the ability and the hunger to scale, and they're number-centric. Okay, they don't have clarity on their numbers at the moment, and they want to gain more clarity so they can use them ultimately to scale and remove their bottlenecks as a company. Okay, and so in order to do that, this is when we start looking at the actual niches themselves. This is when we start thinking about all the kinds of businesses, because we hear the classic dentists, gyms, chiropractors, all of these classic niches, med spas and so on. But are they actually worth us reaching out to? Do they correspond with those pains and ultimately the benefits that we have just gone through? Now, there are two types of niches that I would say, and there are prove-it niches, which are the niches you use to prove yourself to the market, to prove that you are who you say you are and you can do what you say you can do. Okay, when I first started my agency, I was working with restaurants, I was working with gyms, I was working with dentists, I was working with all these local businesses because I couldn't possibly work with the multi-million-pound e-commerce companies I work with today that spend hundreds of thousands on a daily basis on ads. If I went to one of those companies, they would have laughed at me. They would say, well, where's your proof, man? Where's your proof? You're just a uni grad that's saying you can run Facebook ads. I had to prove myself in a market by working my way through lesser niches, okay, less desirable niches for agencies, okay, get case studies, and then move on to what I call the scale it niches. Okay, and I'm going to break down both of these right now and how they then go ahead and relate to what we ultimately just went through there, okay? And so prove-it niches come under this one category. Personal services. Okay? And within that, we have health services. So we have our dentists, we've got our chiropractors, we've got our medical health, we've got studios, etc. We have financial. Let's park financial because I think financial will come into the next. We have home. So we've got kitchen and bathrooms, we've got roofers, we've got paving specialists. There are, tens and tens of different sub-niches within all of these. This video isn't to pick a micro sub-niche, but actually if you stick around to the end of this, I'm going to give you a massive list of micro sub-niches. The purpose here is for you to have confidence that you're picking the right niche that's going to have longevity and is going to allow you to sign up clients, get great results for those clients, and ultimately scale your business to hit the goals that you have set in your life that have motivated you starting a company in the first place. Okay, so there are a whole bunch of different sub-niches, but we're going to keep this macro because the macro is what's important. We've got our car, and we've got detailers, and we've got what is it? PPF, etc., tinting, yada yada yada, and then we also have beauty. So we've got the med spas, and we've got the cosmetics, etc. Okay. Now let's think about how these guys compare to the pains that we just went through here, okay? Human bottlenecks starting off with, okay? Do these personal services niches have human bottlenecks? Okay, well, how do these guys generate revenue right now? Well, if you're in health, if you're a clinic, well, you've got to have a receptionist picking up the phone in order to book people in to have patients. If you're a kitchen and bathroom remodeler, then you might be getting website inquiries, but someone's got to speak to that individual, go out and write a quote. If you've got a car, someone's got to call up, book in the quote. If you're a beauty, you're a clinic, someone's got to speak to them. So yes, they tick the box of having human bottlenecks. That is a pain that they've got that we can solve in the agency. The ability and the hunger to scale, okay? This is where it starts to get a little bit tricky when it comes to personal services, okay? What you'll find with many of these, especially in the home service niche, okay? Home services is a great place that many people get started. They sign up their first 3 to 10 clients. Some people have built really successful agencies in home services, the likes of Chris, who's one of my mentees, who went from 20K to over 200K a month working with home automation companies, okay? But there's also many other people that get stuck with the much smaller businesses in that industry, the small one-man band kitchen and bathroom remodelers, for example, who don't actually want to grow a business. They just don't want to speak to somebody else or work for a boss and have someone else dictate how they run their life. They just want to have themselves self-employed, basically a freelancer, and that's great, by the way, for those individuals, but it's not great for us as agencies. And so you're going to hit a point where you're running ads, let's say, for that business, you're spending $1,000 a month, and then you've hit their capacity, they're booked up for the next 6 months. You have a conversation with your client, you say, hey, John, awesome news, you're booked up. Shall we expand? He's like, fuck that, I don't want to hire. I don't want to have those headaches. And so what you find with personal services, it's the same with clinics. The minute they're fully booked, they have to open another location. They can have this anxiety around opening extra locations. You're going to find that a large percentage of the owners in these personal services niches have these mental bottlenecks when it comes to scaling. And scaling becomes the limitation in your scaling as an agency. There is a ceiling, there is a roof. And basically the only way that you can overcome that is by moving up market. Okay, so you can work like Chris in home automation, and you can move away from the small guys that just go around on their own, putting in, Ring doorbells and, smart heating systems and so on and so forth. And you can move into the bigger companies that are multinationals, that have big chains, that have, tens if not hundreds of people working for them going out on site. So there are ways to overcome the scaling problem with personal services, but it is a problem that exists. And then we move into a much more competitive sub-niche where we are basically only targeting the top, 1 to 10% of that industry. But it's certainly still possible, and I've got many a story of agency owners that have been able to do that. But we basically have to move up market if we're going for personal services and we want to scale an agency above 100 grand a month. The next thing is number-centric, okay? 90% of businesses in prove-it niches are not number-centric at all. Your local dentist doesn't have a clue about all of their conversion rates. Your kitchen and bathroom remodeler doesn't have a clue. Your car detailer definitely doesn't have a clue and isn't really monitoring that, because again, they're not thinking about it like this capitalist business that are looking to scale and grow to these really large, lofty goals, okay? And so, numbers/data is also going to be a bottleneck. As an AI lead generation agency, one of the best things that we can do is use AI to analyze across niches and look at the patterns across what's working across all of our clients, and then use that data to improve the results we're getting for our clients. That data isn't going to be very valuable if our clients don't want to scale very aggressively. And so this is not to scare you off personal services. This is actually the best place to start for the majority of you watching this that don't already have an agency. But if you are moving into personal services and you want to stay there, then you must be aware of the limitation, and you've got to move up market in order to be able to build an agency above 100 grand a month. Now, we explore our scale it niches, okay? Some of you guys will stick here, you'll stay there, you'll move up market, that'll be great, and I've got a great story for you of someone who's done that right now that's over 150K a month. Others of you will use this as your opportunity to get case studies, get your proof, then you'll move into the scale it niches. What do we have there? We've got our professional services. Okay? So our professional services are the likes of finance. It's the likes of our B2B companies. Okay, so we've got like our accountants, our recruitment firms, and so on and so forth. We've got our insurance is a big one. We were once consulting a client that was spending $1 million per day at their peak. They started off, when we started working with them, at 100 grand per day on ad spend in insurance fraud. They moved to $1 million a day sterling. It was one of the highest spending ad accounts on Meta at the time in insurance fraud. Absolutely crazy. We were consulting them. Unfortunately, we weren't running their ads because then we would be getting some big fat commission checks. Law is also another massive one. Of course, these things kind of merge and blend into each other, but family law, personal law, business law, whatever that may be. These professional service niches are very viable, very scalable, and you can be very aggressive with the way that you grow an agency in these industries. Why? The number one way or reason is because these businesses are used to paying for leads. Okay, it's hard to get leads in these businesses unless they've been around for tens and tens of years and they've got a huge amount of referrals. Okay, most of these companies are used to proactively marketing to generate leads, or maybe they even buy leads from big lead aggregates who generate leads at a mass scale and then sell them to smaller companies. Let's compare this. So professional services, do they have human bottlenecks? 100%. Every single one of these niches is going to have a sales floor. They're going to have dedicated sales teams. Whilst here, we've got a couple of receptionists, maybe the big top 1, top 10% companies have a sales floor. In these companies, even the small ones have a sales floor because they need one in order to convert those clients. Do they have the ability to scale? Yeah, absolutely, because they are sales-driven businesses. When a company is built with sales at the core, the mindset is that it's infinitely scalable, okay? And most of these services are delivered just by humans virtually offering some kind of a service. Maybe they're even delivered online, maybe even some of these are now delivered by AI. And so the rate of scale is massive, whereas these companies are limited by physical service delivery, okay? And therefore time becomes the limiter in their ability to scale. And they're so busy running the business that it's hard to think about hiring all these new people and building new locations and so on and so forth. Now, sales and number-centric, absolutely. If you're a sales-driven business from day one, you've got to be really tight on all of your show-up rates. You've got to be tight on your lead conversion rates, on your attended close rates, etc., etc. You have to be really tight on your numbers. And so if an agency like you or I is approaching any of these companies in any of these sub-niches, and we're going to come to them with this existing data set of 10 other businesses we've worked in their industry and all of this intellect and intel on how we can increase their conversion on what they're already doing, then it's going to be a much easier sell. Because all of these businesses don't just need new leads, but they're also dealing with a large volume of inbound leads. And so if we've got all of this data that we've collected from all of our other clients, we can apply our learnings to their existing inbound. They can now benefit from the speed to lead of AI because their human sales team can't get hold of everyone. They can benefit from the consistency of that, not just on the new leads we're generating from the traffic that we're generating for them, but on the existing inbound that we've got, which means if we sign them up on a pay-per-appointment model, for example, then we can start making a serious amount of commission from day one. And this is how we go from, these niches probably paying us around 5K a month at our peak when we're working with the best, to these kind of businesses that are paying us, 10, 15K a month, and even more than that in some cases. Now, again, there are nuances to that. There will be someone within home improvement that's getting paid 15K a month right now, just like there'll be someone in B2B getting paid 2K a month. But what I'm doing is generalizing based on thousands of people that I've worked with over the years and just the rule of averages from the agencies that I have observed in the market. Broadly speaking, there are far less limitations for scale moving into professional services, but it doesn't necessarily mean you need to make that transition. You've got to start off by proving yourself to the market. And then you have to ask yourself one really crucial question that I'm going to give to you shortly. But before we do, I want to squash the myth of saturation. Because when I talk about niches, the biggest objection that I get from anyone when I suggest any niche to anyone based on their circumstances is, well, isn't that niche really saturated? The truth is, every single niche is saturated. And the idea or the dream that you're going to find some blue ocean opportunity, it doesn't exist, okay? It does not exist. Every single niche has or is saturated, but just has varying degrees of saturation. And actually, saturation is a myth in it being a problem. In fact, I actually think that saturated niches are the best niches to work with, okay? So let's explore that, saturation. What does it actually mean? Saturation means that it's busy, right? Meaning there are lots of both clients in the industry. So there's many companies, let's say we're talking about law firms, there's loads of law firms, but there's also lots of agencies looking to work with law firms. It's very busy, okay? But what does busy actually mean? Well, busy means that there's demand in the market, okay? It's only busy because that's where the opportunity is, okay? It's where the money is flowing. The only time any business niche or sector gets busy is when lots of people are making money in it. It's perceived as a gold rush, and therefore the market floods to that place. The only reason, therefore, there would be lots of agencies servicing a saturated niche is because they perceive it to be a very valuable industry. And so if something is saturated, that doesn't make it bad because it's in demand and it's where the money is flowing. And so all it means is we just need to be better in the market. We just need to be able to outcompete people in the market. And we don't need to be the biggest in order to be able to do this. In fact, I've got many a story of agency owners that have been able to reverse this, have been able to tackle saturated niches and actually come out on top as industry leaders, as the underdogs. And I'm going to tell you one in a moment. But before we do, let's actually just explore the opposite of this, what most people perceive to be the best situation, and that is like blue ocean opportunity. Okay, which is like obviously blue ocean being it's a big blue ocean, there's no one in it, it's a wide open opportunity. Okay, but the thing is, the way I perceive blue ocean opportunities, other than the fact that they're a myth, okay, they don't really exist, is the fact that they're really quiet. Okay, if there's no one competing in that market, if there's not many businesses in that market, then it's quiet. And if it's quiet, then it means there's low demand. And there's not a lot of people going for it. Why is it low demand? Well, for a reason. Unless it's a brand new industry that has come to the world that, you know, out of some miracle, people have invented some brand new type of business model, okay? Unless that has happened, which is possible in, I suppose, some subsectors in AI. Maybe AI SaaS could be a niche, which would be blue ocean. But, you know, I would argue that's going to get pretty saturated pretty quickly. But most of the time, it's because there's slow money flow. Okay? For example, personal cleaning. I've had many an agency come to me and they're like, what is the small niche that I don't hear anyone else talk about? I haven't heard anyone talk about personal house cleaning. Well, most people don't work with personal house cleaning because it's a service that costs someone £50 each and someone can only clean so many houses on a daily basis. And most people that are cleaning don't want to hire another 100 people that are going to do it to actually bring themselves to a point where they've got a 7-figure business and actually wants to pay an agency 1K even, let alone 2K a month. And so there's a reason why agencies aren't working in that industry and a reason why those businesses aren't booming, okay? Just because you don't know any other agencies working in that niche doesn't make it a good opportunity. The chances are, if you've found a niche that is really small, that there aren't many agencies that exist in, it's because it's low demand, because there is slow money flow for the business owners themselves. And you do not want to be working in a niche where your clients aren't making much money. You want to be working in a niche where your clients are raking it in, because the more your clients earn, the more you will earn, the less pressure they will put on you to get results, because the less impact overall you're going to have on the total business. Or on the reverse of that, the more impact you have, the more money they will actually look to pay you in the first place, okay? And so we don't want to go where there is slow money flow. Blue ocean is somewhat of a myth, okay? Saturated niches are where it's at. Now, I was going to tell you about someone, and that person is a guy called Nico. He owns an agency called Dentology. He works with, as you can guess, probably dentists in the UK. Okay, there are tens of dental marketing agencies in that industry. Okay, he's been in the industry for just over 2 years, actually probably coming up to 3 years now. He's worked with me from zero. He's now at over 150K per month in his agency. He's one of my mentees. Okay, and he was able to dominate UK dental market and really cause a stir in the market. How was he able to do that? Okay, well, Nico didn't realize it at the time, but Nico used the strategy that I learned from a guy called Rory Sutherland, who's the CEO of Ogilvy, which is one of the biggest, he's actually the vice chairman, which is one of the biggest digital marketing agencies in the world, or not just digital. And that is the concept of reverse. This deserves its own page. Let's give it one. Reverse benchmarking. Now, what most people do when they start a business in any niche, any agency, is they look at what all the competitors are doing, what services they are offering, what kind of brand that they have, and they try and replicate what they've got. They try and make themselves aligned with that and try and make what they're already doing a little bit better. Okay, they try and give themselves an edge on the edge that their competitors already have. The best agencies and the way that underdogs dominate saturated industries is you look at what everybody else isn't doing and you do exactly that. You look at the market, you see what services are they offering, how are they positioning themselves, and how do I sound like the opposite to that, but still aligning with all those core benefits and pains that the market has. Okay, so how did Nico do that? Well, he noticed that in dental marketing, it was somewhat archaic. It was old. Everyone was just going down the same traditional route of running Google ads to get inbound leads on inquiries from Invisalign, yada, yada, yada. Nico started off with AI positioning. His domain was dentology.ai. Immediately, there is a level of perception that changes when you have AI attached to your service. You're instantly perceived as being further ahead to the market. But most importantly, he introduced appointment setting. No one else in the market was appointment setting at the time, and that is the act of actually reaching out to leads and booking them into the dentist calendar. Most people were just generating leads for dentists, okay? But Nico looked at the market and he thought, well, why is nobody doing this? I've seen it work across other industries, I'm gonna bring it to dental. And he started doing it, then he started introducing AI, then he layered this data layer on top of it when he started working with bigger and better clients, and then he started targeting the upmarket, and now he's been able to sign up clients on licensing deals up to £30,000 just for one single client. And he's done that in just over 2 years from zero in a saturated industry through reverse benchmarking. And this can be done on a micro level across many different ways. In fact, if you want me to talk about this in more detail in a dedicated video, drop a comment down below, and if enough of you actually do, then I'll talk about this in a more comprehensive sense. But I want you to walk away from this actually knowing what niche to pick. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 questions to ask yourself right now to round this all up, to give you the ability to pick a niche, and then I'm going to give you a big list of niches, okay? The first one is unfair advantages. Do I have any unfair advantage, I've spelled that wrong, any unfair advantages that have brought me up to this point in the business in the first place? Do I have a job that I've worked in? Do I have interest in an industry? Do I have family that own a business? Do I have friends that own a business? Is there anything in my life that points me in the direction of a specific industry in one of those prove-it niches? Or if you've got a really unfair advantage, maybe you've worked for 10 years in a professional service industry, then you can skip straight through to the scale-it niches. But don't watch this thinking you can run before you can walk, you can skip through to scale it, you're going to fall on your ass, it's not going to work. You've got to be, the only way you can skip to scale it is if you've got an unfair advantage, okay? For the rest of you, try and pick something, it would call out to you, it'll be pretty obvious if you do. If you don't, then skip through to number 2, the second question, which is, can I prove it with a prove it niche, and can I sniper one, okay? If I've got a gun, I'm targeting one individual niche, I'm niching down from day one. Is there an industry that I've got a genuine interest in that I gravitate towards within those prove-it niches, those personal services that I went through? Okay, is there one that I gravitate towards that I've got an interest in? Yes or no? Sit on it for an evening, play around with ChatGPT or Claude. If no, move on to question 3. Okay, can I just prove it scattergun? Now, if a sniper gets one person, a scattergun is like a sawn-off shotgun. We shoot it, spray and pray, we hit a lot of different people. We pick our local area to start off with, and we start working with and reaching out to as many personal services businesses as we possibly can. We sign up 3 to 5 clients maximum, ideally in different niches. There's going to be patterns across them. We analyze which ones we're actually getting good results for, which ones we enjoy working with, which ones we can see us building a fully fledged agency from, and then what we do is we go back to step 2. So we spend 3 months figuring it out, okay? Which niche do I want to go for? And then ultimately get the goal of snipering down and focusing on one industry so we can really embed ourselves in there and we can stand out in a specific market. Question 4, as we come from here, even if we've got to this sniper point, is what's my ceiling? Once we know what industry we're working with, we've already started working with them. What is my ceiling? What is the actual limit of the industry I'm working with? Okay. Now, the easiest way to establish this is to try and reverse engineer your competitors. Have a look at how many team members they've got, have a look at how many clients they've got on their website, speak to them, jump on calls with them, understand what the limit is in your industry. Are there agencies already making the amount of money that you want to make personally yourself? Okay? If you're working in any personal service niches, there will already be an agency that's at the max capacity, okay? Build a relationship with them, find out about them, dig into them, look at their company records, whatever you need to do, figure out what your ceiling is. That ceiling is usually going to be capped by the ceiling of the niche itself, about how quick and how much and what the limit is of the revenue that the actual clients are making themselves, okay? And the question is, does that ceiling align with the goals that I've got in my life? Am I content staying here? Or do I need to move on to a scale it niche so I can increase my capacity? And to be honest with yourself here, don't just say I want to make 100 grand a month because you've seen someone else making it on Instagram and it makes you feel like you need to and there's this pressure, you know, and beforehand, a couple of years ago, you were just happy with this content life where you just wanted to have financial freedom. You just wanted to have 10 grand a month or maybe even less than that. And you just wanted to live a happy life, be able to provide for your family, the people around you, and so on and so forth. Okay, 10 grand a month, you can do an awful lot on that kind of money. Be honest with yourself. This has to be based on your personal goal, because if you're going to push yourself to move into a different niche, to go scale it, okay, for all intents and purposes, whilst you've got leverage, you're still kind of starting from, you know, scratch again in that industry. Yes, with your leverage, but it's going to be very hard. Okay, it's going to be very hard transitioning out of that industry and making that jump. I've actually got a mentee, his name is Alex, who's just gone through this. He hit 30K in his personal service niche, which was martial arts studios. I'll put a link in the description to an interview. You can go and watch that. And he realized that that was the limit and he really didn't want to scale much further than that in that industry, but he wanted to get much further in a different niche. And so he switched niches and he's having to go through all of that right now. Go and watch that and you can see how he's making that transition. But you've got to be prepared for the work that's going to come into that. And be honest with yourself on whether you actually want it. Because if you do want it, then what you're going to do is you're going to do scale it, sniper, and you're going to transition your niche into one of those scale it niches, and you're going to scale with less limits because you're playing a bigger game of business ultimately. I'll tell you one thing I missed from the personal services niches is you've got all your online niches as well, which classes your scale it. So you've got your e-commerce, you've got your SaaS companies, you've got your AI companies, you've got your coaches and so on and so forth. In fact, if you want a big list of niches, sub-niches within those, prove it and scale it, then DM me the keyword niches on Instagram and comment underneath this video and let me know where you're at right now and what your goals are with your agency for this year. Subscribe for more and I'll see you very soon. Cheers, guys.